Hello, everyone. You are on the air with The Shake-Up, and today's guest on The Shake-Up is Mr. Eric Hackley. I always tell the story on my show about how me and Mr. Hackley met. I was actually in the parking lot of Aldi's, I believe it was, and I ran up to him because I was attending the Million Man March, and I knew he had done interviewing for the Frost. So I ran up to him and asked him if when I came back for the Million Man March, would he interview me? And he graciously agreed. And when I came back, I located him, and that's just what happened. And from there, you have this wonderful friendship. So how are you today, Mr. Hackley?
I am just great. I'm happy to be here.
Well, first I want to thank you for coming on to the show. In March of this year, Open Minded Development will be hosting the Black Man Summit. And I have to give you most of the credit for why this event is going on. You introduced me to a gentleman named Brother Sage. Brother Sage is the consultant on the project and a black man think tank historian. Now, one reason that I came to you when I was interested in being interviewed is because of your vast willingness to delve deeper into history, to be able to pull a story from an individual, and to take that information and more times than not transfer it to print. Now, all of that being said, what do you feel like is the biggest reason? You attended a part of a Black Man Summit. Why do you think Fort Wayne needs a Black Man Summit?
Oh my gosh. It's we need an awareness that comes externally. Because over the years, there's been a tendency here in Fort Wayne to a situation where we all kind of think alike. Ever how radical we want to be, we're still in the same in the same zone. And when we have a chance,
when you say zone, do you mean like mindset or where we live and not wanting to economically grow?
Yes.
Both?
Both.
Okay.
Yes, because the mindset that we have, ever how radical we may feel that we are, we're still not too far from the status quo.
And when you say mindset, name some of the characteristics that you would define that you'd see in this mindset.
A mindset that's created by conditioning, the laws, the customs of this land.
So more so the things around us, not who we are. We are...
Oh, right, yes. Externally, the things that have shaped us, the fake news, the propaganda, the his story, all those types of things that have made us into the kind of a being that we are today.
And what do you feel like, okay, for me, I'm bringing the Black Man Summit here to celebrate our culture, our history, to encourage some critical thinking that leads to actions. Now, what are some of the things that you feel like the communities of color in Fort Wayne have conformed to? What have they gotten so used to that it's just they're not even seeing that it's a problem? Well, just name a few.
One, they don't see the cycles of history that we're living in right now. Like right now, we're going through another cycle. All these cycles, you hear that history repeats itself, but if you're told that we're in a new era, and this is all new, you don't pick up on how things are repeating themselves. I mean, like with John Carlos, for example, him being in the late 60s, standing up like that, and the way that he was ostracized, that's always the case. Anytime you stand up for what you believe in.
Modern day, the history repeating itself would be the Kirk Kirkpatrick scenario.
Yeah, or Pig scenario.
Yeah.
And the answer would be yes. Anytime you stand up for what you believe, that's why the leadership here, I'm not downing the leadership or anything, but they're not really too far outside the box, especially even across Indiana. But once you realize that what
would it take for you to feel like they were stepping outside of the box? Like, I know a couple of groups who are making efforts to do some things in Fort Wayne. The I Am Garvey Project, the Metro is expanding their services. I mean, I know there are some leaderships that are any system has their breakdowns. But like, what are you seeing that makes you feel like, now you've been around the block and you've toured the country studying people of color and how we've migrated and meshed and not meshed in other situations. What do you feel like is what are they not stepping outside the box to do, our leadership?
Well, first of all, you're correct. There are great initiatives going on here in Fort Wayne. And people who take these steps and build these programs and go in these directions, a lot of times they don't get the support that they need. And what happens is, as time goes on, you'll see how inelastic the mindset is here. It'll stretch a little bit. It'll stretch, and boy, when it coils back again, it snaps everything right back in line. And then there you are. You're starting all over again. So yeah, I'm familiar with all those. And they're doing great things, and I just hope that they can keep.
So it sounds like you're saying we need to find a way to support each other.
Yes.
A little more.
And that's another thing that goes in cycles, because anymore, if you're accused of being supportive of black initiatives, at some point in time you're going to be called a racist.
Tell me this. You've mentioned these cycles. What is a time in history that you feel like is now needed more now than ever? Like, you've studied history a lot, and if there's high cycles, then there's got to be low cycles, and it sounds to me like we're speaking about the low cycles. What are some high cycles, some high turnout for people of color in history that you feel like we really should be working towards accomplishing those type of things again?
That's a good question. I don't think we've arrived, because we're in this condition that we are right now. So if we would have arrived someplace, we would hopefully still be there. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is it seems like it's like a life cycle thing. Just like when you mentioned the other guys with initiatives. They grow and they reach a point and then it dies. And that's when everything recoils. They lose their support because of the...
Be direct. Be direct.
I don't want.
As long as you don't use the 7 dirty words, I can air it.
I'm not saying that we're all victims of being brainwashed, and I'm not trying to bring in the idea of a supremacy or inferiority complex.
Well, how about we say enough of our culture hasn't been taught to us for us to appreciate it? Because to me, that's the other side of white supremacy. Well, you might not want to hear that you're brainwashed. Well, then fine. Maybe you should accept that you don't know enough about yourself to appreciate yourself. If all you know is the other, then how can you appreciate yourself? You know nothing of you.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you know a lot about your culture, a lot of people will say, well, now how does that make me any money? How does that help me today? And a lot of times it doesn't directly make you any money or directly do things for you today. But when you learn these things that may not help you today, but the total picture, it'll help you put forth a broader total concept so that you can see how you're being played. Because sometimes you think you have an answer to something and you're responding to one of the answers that's been given to you and not the answer that's really true.
So you're being led.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, okay. Now, I want to build on this lead thing. Now, it's so many different groups that feel like they're really giving their man a head up, but they're really just patting Johnny on the back.
Well, no, there's a thin line there. I don't mean to diss any of those organizations.
Oh, we're not dissing them,
okay,
because we both agreed that those that are out there working and accomplishing something, it is not for me or Mr. Hackley or anyone for that matter to judge them. But if we intend on getting better, we have to show the weak links in the chains or the places where support needs to be given. I hear a lot of what you're saying is that we as a community have to start supporting each other more and stop worrying about what hither and thither does and focus more on community building, supporting the small groups, getting your hands dirty, getting down in the trenches, being aware of what goes on in your surroundings. So I don't think that we're downplaying or dogging any group, but I do want to discuss, you're a historian. You travel the Midwest extensively seeking out your own heritage. And history does repeat itself, and there's nothing new under the sun. And statistically, I'm an actuary, so numbers matter. Statistically, certain things will happen to a certain group of people just because it's that certain group of people. Now, all that being said, I want to know where do you feel like we can build? Where are key points right now? If you're looking at our landscape, Fort Wayne in particular, if you're looking at our landscape, I'm bringing the Black Man Summit here so we can celebrate our culture. What are some things that you hope are addressed and that our leaders may, if they're listening to my show, what are some things that you hope they leave with knowing about our city?
I hope that the things that John Carlos says, they'll be able to relate to Fort Wayne. Because here it's kind of easy.
You know, Brother Juma is one of the breakout session leaders. So he'll be one of the other speakers.
And that'll be great too, because he will most likely get into more of a psychological aspect of it, and that's important. But I think that it's important that we have to take whatever is said and apply it, because one solution won't apply equally to everyone who's listening to it. You know.
Hold one moment. I am experiencing some technical difficulties.